Welcome down the rabbit hole, friends. You haven't missed out on a thing that is meant for you. I really believe that, and I have to believe it for Gypsy Rose Blanchard. Because originally, when Gypsy was found guilty, I was so sad and frustrated and disappointed in our legal system. I thought, how can we hold this person accountable for escaping what was essentially a prison? Her mother was like a kidnapper holding her hostage in her body and in that home for so many years. But today, finally, Gypsy Rose has been set free, and I'm here tonight to give you all the details and even uncover what I think is some unknown, untold secrets about Dee Dee Blanchard that we need to discuss. So thank you so much for joining me down this rabbit hole. Gypsy Rose just finished up a 7-year stint in a Missouri prison after pleading guilty to a second-degree murder charge in 2016. Gypsy Rose admitted to convincing her then-boyfriend, Nicholas Godejohn, to kill her mother, Dee Dee Blanchard. Nicholas stabbed her to death while she slept in order to free Gypsy from a prison her mother had created and sustained for over a decade. Prosecutors agreed to a plea deal after they uncovered the fact that Gypsy Rose had been suffering from severe abuse at the hands of her mother for many years. Most of us are aware that Gypsy was the victim of Munchausen by proxy syndrome, a syndrome in which a caregiver, like a mother, fakes or exaggerates or even induces illness in a child, usually in order to gain attention. Dee Dee spent years convincing those around her, including doctors, that her daughter was afflicted with diseases like leukemia and muscular dystrophy, among other ailments, and this included confining her perfectly healthy child to a wheelchair. Gypsy was trained and told how to act out in public. Gypsy let us know after she was arrested that she was afraid of her mother, and Dee Dee would often hold her hand in public and squeeze it if Gypsy was acting too healthy or too smart for what her mother wanted to portray to those around her. Before this desperate act to flee her home and murder her mother, Gypsy had tried to leave in a peaceful manner, running away to be with a prior boyfriend, but Dee Dee found her and brought her back to the home. Gypsy believed she had no other way out. Recently, I saw several people discussing on Reddit this question: what would Dee Dee have done if Gypsy had not ended this charade? What would have been the end game for Dee Dee? And many people said they believed that Dee Dee was going to eventually get rid of Gypsy because she was going to keep growing older and keep pushing the boundaries of what Dee Dee could control. She wouldn't be cute and attract as much money or attention any longer. So what was Dee Dee planning to do with Gypsy when all of her lies finally ended? It's an important question to ask, and it's one of the reasons why I felt that we really could not hold Gypsy accountable for ending the life of her captor. And yet, despite my frustrations about it, I've come to realize that most likely this prison stint ended up being a good experience for Gypsy Rose Blanchard, and she's actually come forward and stated that she feels the same through her stepmom and dad. She's let them know that she's forever grateful to have received the therapy and education because she took several classes and obtained her GED while in the prison system. Nicholas Godejohn remains imprisoned for his part in the murder of Dee Dee Blanchard. His attorneys are currently working on filing an appeal, looking at the fact that Gypsy has been able to obtain release That's a story and an issue for another day. But for now, let's take a look at Gypsy leaving the prison for the first time in 7 years with her new husband. Okay, so Gypsy's husband, his name is Ryan Scott Anderson, and he married her while she was in prison in 2022, so just about a year ago. Ryan is actually a school teacher, and he lives close to her family down in Louisiana. Recently, I watched an interview in which Gypsy's stepmom and father said that they are really excited about Ryan. He seems to be genuine and make her very happy. I cannot even imagine how lonely it has been for Gypsy all of these years. So while in prison, Gypsy met and married Anderson, who is a teacher in Louisiana, and she said, "We are in love," she told People magazine ahead of her early release, adding that she really wants to start a family with Anderson and is ready to go to a loving home. So according to Gypsy's stepmom and father, the plan is for Gypsy to live with Anderson and his parents. Gypsy is quoted as saying, "I know the home that I'm going to is with my husband, and I'm going to have a really supportive family dynamic," she told People. And I think that's what I've been missing this whole time. Now, allegedly, people are saying that Gypsy has undergone some intensive therapy, and she has already signed all these deals to write a book. She had the documentary made about her as well as the HBO special. So there's some money that's coming in for Gypsy, and I'm all about that for her. But of course, everyone, her fans and her family, want to make sure that whoever she's with is not taking advantage of her. According to her father and stepmother, they have come to see Anderson, Ryan Anderson, as just a really good person and a good fit for Gypsy. And he was there to pick her up and drive her home. So Ryan is from Lake Charles, Louisiana, and he actually works as a middle school special education teacher. They began communicating in prison after Anderson sent her a letter. It was during 2020 when they had the COVID-19 pandemic and Anderson was staying home. He was working at a hospital at the time, and he said that, he needed something to do with his personal life. Now, Anderson, he kind of makes a joke out of the whole thing. He said that he had a coworker and they kind of made a bet that she would write to the Netflix show superstar from the Tiger King, Joe Exotic, and he would write to Gypsy Blanchard, which I kind of think that actually sounds like a more normal way to get involved in writing a prison inmate, kind of as a joke. Anderson said, "I'll tell you what, if you write him, I'll write Gypsy Rose Blanchard." And Anderson said that he had watched the documentary Mommy, Dead, and Dearest 3 years before he made this bet. After Ryan sent the letter, he didn't expect to hear back, but within a few weeks, in May of 2020, he had begun a back and forth email exchange with Blanchard, so they were able to email back and forth. And he said that he was drawn to her, and she felt incredibly interested in him because he's made a lot of sacrifices for his family in his life, specifically helping to raise his nephew. Because of COVID-19 restrictions, Blanchard and Anderson, they couldn't meet until July of 2021, but Gypsy says that Ryan has been her emotional backboard, crediting him for helping to keep her calm. Gypsy says, "I would say that he is probably the most compassionate soul I've ever met and the most patient. God knows he's so patient with me because I could be a little bit of a lot to handle. I could be a handful, an emotional handful. We've been able to build this emotional bond that within 2 seconds of talking on the phone, he knows my emotions and he'll be like, 'Are you okay? Do you want to talk about it?' I'm so thankful that I have a man that is open enough with his own emotions so I could let my emotions flow." So, on July 21st, 2022, the two tied the knot in a small prison ceremony with no guests. Now, Gypsy has said, "We do plan to have a reception and redo the wedding with all of our family and friends, and I'll have a dress and a cake and everything because we deserve that. I deserve that. He deserves that," she told People in 2023. "Our prison wedding was just something to where we can make our vows to each other. It was something that meant something to us, and I think the party is kind of for everybody else and us, but mostly for everybody else." I know her family, her dad and her stepmom, really wanted her to have a wedding. Now, Gypsy makes a point of letting People magazine know that she does want to have kids, but she absolutely has been through plenty of therapy and she feels like she's learned what not to do when it comes to raising children and understands that there will be a long journey ahead. She says, I have other mother figures that are around in my life, friends that are mothers. So I have a lot of good people around me to pull advice from when that time comes. I don't think that there's going to be a manual that says you've won Mom of the Year, but I definitely have no concerns about, I think, my parenting when it comes to that time. I believe that Gypsy has every right and deserves to lead the most normal and happy life she possibly can. I'm grateful that this guy came into her life when she probably needed to feel some normality and, find some hope in believing that when she got out of prison, there would be someone who was there for her. So Gypsy was released today, and she is going to be releasing a book up and coming. I believe you can pre-order it now on Amazon. I'll be rushing over to do that right after I get finished with this video. So I hope you'll join me in pre-ordering her book. We'll probably go over it on my channel. I am so happy for her, and thank you for joining me tonight to head down this rabbit hole. Have a great night, guys.